Hey, Telltale guys, huge fan. Thank you for having me on. My name is Abby, and I'm going to tell you about a story that I was a part of an exorcism. This happened circa 2019 in Rocky Mount, North Carolina, in the middle of summer. I was a camp counselor at a theology camp on the campus of North Carolina Wesleyan College. Shout out. At the time, I was a college student, but the year prior, I was actually a camper at this camp. And once I became a college student, they asked me to be a counselor, and so I did. So it was about me and about 8 other college students. We're in charge of 25 high school kids, and we had some older adults who were like pastors, and like the head theology professor was also in charge of these kids, and they stayed for a week in the dorms with us. And every single day kind of looked a little different. We would go out into the community, learn about whatever our theme that week was. It was some type of theology theme each week. This week I don't particularly remember what the theme was, but in the evenings, we would have the same routine. All the campers would come together. We would have a sermon, a worship night, and end in prayer. At the start of this week, it was a little different than the other weeks that I had been a part of as a camper and a counselor. All the students came, and we had this one particular student who he was probably about 14 or 15, and you could tell that he did not want to be there. His parents just dropped him off, and he kind of just stuck to himself, was on his phone all the time, and wasn't like the other campers in the way that he was kind of just into darker themes, which wasn't like abnormal. We had some Christian students who were into horror movies and stuff, but he would just say like inappropriate stuff at like the wrong times, and nobody really liked, it was sad to say, nobody really liked hanging out with him because he was a little bit weird and would just say these weird things, and you could tell wasn't like the normal Christian kid coming to this camp. So one of our camp counselors named Joe, he's actually a pastor now, was in charge. He was in charge of this kid, and our theology professor would come to Joe and be like, "Hey Joe, can you just try to get through to him, talk to him a little bit, see what's like going on, why is he saying these things? Why is he, obviously not being a good influence on the other kids?" And so Joe had to go and pull him to the side and talk to him a lot about like, "Hey, like what's going on? Why aren't you getting involved?" He would just stick on his phone during like your sermons and like would laugh and act out like during your prayer time, and you could tell just wasn't in the right headspace. And Joe just said he really couldn't get through to him. So flash forward to the end of this week, we have our last sermon and our last prayer and worship night. And this was a special night because we had like the bishop of the college come and do like a special sermon. And at the very end, he was going to anoint our head with oil and the sign of the cross as just like a nod to like Psalm 23, where it says the Lord anoints your head with oil. And so we line up and we all are doing that, and it gets to this one kid's turn, and he obviously does not want to do it. And he's saying, no, I'm not doing it. And they're like, "It's okay, like you don't have to," but he's still standing there. So the bishop goes ahead and does the sign of the cross with oil on his forehead, and he immediately drops to the ground and starts throwing up this green bile. It's not normal throw up, it is green, thick bile, and he's like gagging and choking on it. And everybody's like, "What the heck? Like, what the heck is going on? Like, we've never seen this before. This isn't normal." And he just keeps throwing up and hacking and groaning and moaning. And so the bishop and our theology professor just start praying out loud. They immediately kind of know what to do, like jump into action, and are like saying, like, whatever is in him, get out of him. You have no authority here. Like, in Jesus' name, get out, leave him alone. And At that point, one of our leaders instructed all of the rest of the campers to leave the chapel, leave the room. They did not want the campers to see this, but the counselors could stay. And so me and the counselors were looking around like, what is happening? He is not speaking English. He is groaning and saying things that sound like gibberish and don't make sense. And that's when the bishop instructs all of us to lay hands on him and start praying out loud to let this demon come out of him. And he is gripping the floor and shaking violently. And this is a 14-year-old kid that it was just like a weird thing to see. And so we all start praying out loud, and I lost track of how much time this took. It was no less than it at least took 20 minutes at this point. I don't know, it could have been 20 minutes to 45 minutes. We were there praying over him. He was throwing up this green substance and gripping the floor, shaking, mumbling and saying words that we didn't know what he was doing. So at this point, the head bishop who was performing this ceremony was a Catholic bishop, and he starts reading a Bible verse in Latin, which I don't know what that Bible verse was, but it was Latin, and he starts doing it, and all of a sudden the boy goes completely still. He stops shaking and mumbling and throwing up. Me and the other college students are just looking around and being like, what in the world? We have never experienced anything like this before. Seen this. We're all 18 and 19-year-olds. And all of a sudden, after that, he stands up, and you can tell instantly, completely changed. His demeanor has changed. His face looks different. His eyes are open and wider, and he has no idea what has happened to him. And he is just really confused. What just happened to me? And so at that point, our leaders take him and kind of explain in private what had happened to him. Meanwhile, the campers are outside, scared to death, have no idea what has gone on, and we were instructed not to tell them what really took place in front of our eyes, because first of all, we didn't want to throw this one kid under the bus as the demon-possessed kid and have all the other campers be like, he was possessed by a demon, and tell everybody. Meanwhile, I'm on this podcast telling everybody. But yeah, it was not to frighten them and stuff. And so after that, the next morning, that ended our week with those campers, and it's been something that has been hard to explain to other people what has happened, because it happens so quickly and we couldn't tell the campers what happened. And yeah, it was just a crazy experience to be a part of. So yeah, that was my exorcism story.